How you doing, guys? Got this guitar here. I actually got this a number of years ago, but never got around to showing it off. This is a 1951 Epiphone Kent. This comes from before the Gibson buyout. Now, I don't know if you know this, but Epiphone used to be neck and neck with Gibson. They're actually older. They started back all the way in the Ottoman Empire. They used to be master luthiers making things like harps, or not harps, obviously, making things like mandolins and lutes, just all different sorts of stringed instruments. Much later, they came over to America, started making guitars, and they made the best guitars. And when I say the best guitars, I really mean it. When Les Paul himself had his contract with Gibson, it is rumored that he would have Gibson models made in his name, and then he'd go to Epiphone and say, make me this model guitar, shave down the headstock so it looks like an Epiphone headstock, or it looks like a Gibson headstock, and we'll stamp the Gibson on there. That's how he fulfilled his contractual agreement, but the guitars that he played were actually made by Epiphone because he thought they played much better, and I agree, these are really nice. They have really different sort of sound to them too when you play them electric. This is a New Yorker pickup. This is not a humbucker. This is a single coil. It just looks like a mini humbucker. And I really don't know what to compare it to because it doesn't sound like your Strat style single coil. It doesn't sound like your Tele style single coil, and it definitely doesn't sound like a P90. It's got its own distinct little twanginess to it, and it has like a perfect 50s sound. Like if that's what you want to play, if you want to play blues or jazz or rock and roll, this is the sort of guitar that you want to look for. And it has a great feel to it. It's all mahogany body. It's got a quilted maple neck, or a quilted maple top, mahogany neck with, I believe, a rosewood fretboard. It's unbound, but still fine. It's got this... Epiphone used to put these on their guitar. They didn't stamp their name on there. They made a steel plate, and they put these at the top of the headstock of each one of their guitars. It's got an ivory nut, ivory tuner keys, ivory binding. It's got a little slab of ivory back here where the neck is set. It's probably the most beautiful guitar I've ever held. It's got a free-floating bridge. This is something that you really don't see that often. This bridge, made of wood, made of mahogany, just like the body, and the only thing holding that on there is the strings. I took the strings off this before, and the bridge just comes right off. I think that's kind of like going back to their roots, making things like violins, because if you play a violin, that's how the bridge is set up. Nothing holds it on, it doesn't bolt into the guitar, and that's why they use these trapeze-style bridges. They didn't bolt anything into the actual body of the guitar, and that actually does alter the sound. It's not like a substantial difference, but it does alter the sound. So back in the day, this is what they used to do. Put trapeze-style bridge on here, or trapeze-style tailpiece and a free-floating bridge, and you didn't dampen the sound, you didn't drill into the guitar at all. The only holes in it were the F-holes, the holes for the pickups, and the holes for your knobs. These knobs, again, they're really cool. I've never seen these on another guitar. Actually, strike that. I've seen an Epiphone Century from the same era, like a 1949 Epiphone Century with these same knobs on it, but they've got these little arrows on them. I thought these were ivory, but it actually feels like they're just hard plastic. But still really neat. It's got the old Epiphone logo right there on the pick guard where you want it. This is the original pick guard. 100% of these parts are original. Nothing on this guitar has been changed at all since 1951. See the dot inlays here, a lot of people don't like those, but I don't know if you can see it in the light. These are real mother of pearl inlays, so dots or not, they're still really nice. The frets are really worn down, obviously. This guitar is more than half a century old, but it still plays. Still plays pretty fucking nice. Trying to think if there's anything else. I actually called the Gibson factory because I couldn't find a lot about this guitar online. I actually couldn't even date it because of how much the serial numbers have changed with Epiphone guitars since the Gibson buyout. But if you call the Gibson factory, older model Epiphones, they don't have the amount of information that they're going to have on a Gibson for you, but they can tell you at least what year it was made, you know, they can verify its authenticity, stuff like that. This one was obviously made in New York City, where all Epiphones were made back in 1951, and it does have its complete original parts. It's even got these tuners, and usually when you see these, it's a bad sign, but these ones are really nice. I don't know if they were just higher quality metals or what the difference is, but I've had guitars with these style of tuners on them before, and they're all shit. They just couldn't hold a tune. These ones are like locking. Like it's hard to get knocked out. Like these strings keep knocking out because they're brand new. I put them on today, but the tuners themselves hold like a dream. Acoustically, this guitar sounds perfect just by itself. I do have thicker gauge strings on here. These are 11s. Two things about doing that: if you're going to put 11s on a guitar like this, you'll have to know how to set it up, because you could damage it. You could twist the neck, you could put too much pressure on the tailpiece and the body. You could do all sorts of things putting too high gauge strings without setting it up properly. So make sure you set it up properly if you're going to put strings like this on, and make sure you've been playing for a while. I've been playing for like 21 years, so my fingers, I just don't feel anything at the ends of them now. But if you have 11s on your guitar and you just started playing, it's going to hurt a lot. But with 11s on here, just playing acoustic, not plugged in, that's what it was made to do, just sort of cowboy chords. It's got a really nice sound. You can play leads on it. So yeah, you could get a lot of nice sounds out of this guitar. You can't really shred on it. It does have a 1950s neck profile. It is not a slim taper like you're used to from the 60s, but that kind of forces you to put your thumb where it goes, which isn't a bad thing, because I don't know about you, but most of us, we play guitar improperly, holding our thumb up here, giving ourselves arthritis. It's supposed to go down here, and if you play with a bigger neck, it's easier to put it there. What else can I say about this guitar? That's what it sounds like just playing. Let's listen to it through an amp. I think it has a really nice sound. And like I said, you know, this single coil pickup that's in here isn't something that I've ever heard on another guitar. It is something that is specific to 1940s and 1950s model Epiphones, because they got bought out in 1957. So by the time they started putting pickups in guitars, making electric guitars, you know, Epiphone was almost done. So it's very rare to find a guitar with a real original New Yorker. They make recreations now, but they're not the same thing. This wasn't called a New Yorker when it was made. It was just I think like a adjust-a-tone. I'll make a correction later. I forget what the actual name is. But yeah, it wasn't called that. They make the recreations, but they're not the same thing. An actual New Yorker from the 50s has a very distinct tone that you can't get out of anything else. So. Really nice clean sound. You get all sorts of distortion sound out of this guitar, but I wouldn't recommend going too high with the distortion because, again, this is a 1950s pickup. It really isn't made for that. It is single coil. It does feedback, but you can get a little bit of a distortion out of this guitar. That's almost as high as you can go. You could kick up the distortion a little bit more, but you can hear the feedback starting already with that. But you can get more of a sound like this out of it if you want. All in all, very nice guitar. Again, 1951 Epiphone Kent. All original parts. These run, in this condition, they run for about $2,000. You can see there's a couple of nicks and scratches in the finish, buckle rash on the back, and it's got a nick taken out of the headstock. I don't know if you could see that on there. But in this condition, they run for about $2,000. You can get one missing the metal plate, or maybe some parts changed out, or a nick in the ivory, stuff like that. You can get ones in that condition for like $1,500, $1,600. Every once in a while, you might even run into one for $1,000. But I would definitely recommend picking one up if you play blues, rockabilly, country, anything like that.